cutting it close. Oh my goodness. Don't you hate when a guest shows up 30 seconds before you start to
30 seconds
break?
is a little bit generous, I think. A little bit generous.
Oh my goodness. Alan is sweating like I don't know, a chain smoker running a marathon. He's like, where's my guest? Where's my guest? I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. Back to back to back speaking engagements today. So far, I have been in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Dublin, and then I was just in Chicago. And now this is global, right? Aren't we global?
We are global.
Okay. All right.
Global. LinkedIn Live, baby. It's everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, super excited to talk about this. And I've done a lot of research, right?
Right on.
This is going to be a good session. This is not just Dan Tyre telling his dad jokes, right? I know.
We're stretching it a little bit, you and I. We're stretching things.
So I'm a huge Alan. Can I give your background and bio, or do people already know?
Go have at it, man.
Okay. Alan Plunkett is one of the most unbelievable, empathetic, thoughtful, smart, giving people in the entire world, right? And I have known him for like 30 years, which seems weird to say, but it's actually true. And surrounds himself with great people, got a great family. We've done a lot of stuff together, philanthropically, been on boards of directors. We've gone to Mexico to build houses for people with Jason Schneider Law from onemission.org. Give them a plug there. He's in my movie club, right? It's not my movie club. It's a movie club, right? Where we get together and talk about cool. And he's a great business owner, always interested in improving everyone, right? He about 30 days ago, he's like, all right, Tyre, right? You probably get inundated with a lot of asks. And I'm like, yes, I do. And he's like, how do you determine which ones you take and which ones you don't? I'm like, you got to learn to say no. And that's like what we decided to talk about. So over the next, how much time do we have?
We have as much time as you want.
All right. This could be a 3-hour LinkedIn Live.
LinkedIn Live can go for 4 hours, Dan. We can do 4 hours on LinkedIn Live.
Oh, baby. I love this format. Oh, my goodness.
I don't know how many people we just lost when we said that.
Well, you're going to edit it in sound bites for the people who have ADD. So if they want the 7-minute version. All right. It's going to be great. All right. So, Alan, thanks for inviting me. I'm super excited to talk about this subject matter and help your audience really understand what we can do to live a better life and saying no.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I want to do a quick introduction of you as well. And thank you so very much, Dan, for that very kind and generous, highly generous introduction of me. But I've known you, like you said, we've known each other for like 30 years, which doesn't make any sense. I still don't think I had hair 30 years ago. So that hasn't changed. I might've been a little bit taller, but the hair situation was pretty much the same.
I know. Crazy.
You're a mentor, you're an investor, you're a starter upper, you're a speaker, a coach, a motivator, a husband, a father, a philanthropist. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. We got 4 hours, right? No. I know.
Your day job is as a sales leader at HubSpot. You were employee what? 4, 5?
Six, but 4 and 5 left. So I don't know if that means I moved down.
You did. You're now 3, I think.
I am now 3. That's true. Yeah, which Brian and Dermesh, first of all, having done 5 startups, I've done 5 startups. We don't have time to go my entrepreneur background, but 5 startups in the last 42 years. HubSpot changed everything. And if you're familiar with HubSpot, amazing company, amazing vision, amazing people, amazing technology, amazing way of energizing and helping, right? The targeted mission of HubSpot is to help individuals, leaders, companies grow better, right? Who didn't want to do that? And socially responsible, and now 110,000 paying customers in 120 countries globally, and the crowning jewel to long and a little bit above average entrepreneur business career, and super fun to be associated with it. I got 5 jobs at HubSpot. Being an evangelist or talking about it is one of them. And this subject matter about saying no is so interesting because it's applicable to just about everybody, wouldn't you say?
Oh, 100%. Well, and you just went through the list of things that I've asked you to do, or you've asked me to do, and you and I always say yes. So I think it's interesting that you and I are doing this conversation, and I hope people chime in because, I asked you to be on a board. What'd you say? Yes. I asked you to do this talk. You said yes. I asked you to go to Mexico. Well, Jason Schneider Law asked both of us to go to Mexico and build houses there, and we both said yes. I asked you to help retool my internal sales process at my company, and you said yes. And you were on calls with us weekly, helping us retool our sales process.
Yeah.
So I've never seen you say no.
Yes.
So I think this is really cool.
So it does happen. You're hard to turn down because you're in the circle of trust. You're like family. Actually, you're better than family. I like you better than like half of my cousins. And the things that you ask are meaningful. And look at this. Chris saying, thanks for doing this. Wow, I like that pop-up. That's all. I need lots of positive feedback. So keep pinging all those.
Keep it coming.
I know. So this is something that is very challenging for many people, right? And I say no a lot, right? And I'm saying no more than ever because as you get involved in more things, as you know, right? There's more opportunities to get asked, right? There's more opportunities to just you're known a little bit better. The more successful you are, the more times people ask you to tap in. So it's an amazing topic. And I, of course, like looped in my beautiful wife, Amy. For those of you who don't know, I am the luckiest guy in the world, right? All of the entrepreneurial experience, enjoyed pretty good success. Been married for 32 years to the beautiful, spiritual, thoughtful, wisdom-filled Amy Tyre. 31 great ones and one mediocre one, which she lets me stay from the gym. As you'll find out, I'm basically a 9-year-old, right? And she does all the heavy lifting. We got 2 beautiful, socially responsible kids, right? She is just unbelievable. She was in total dismay. She's like, Alan asked you about saying no. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I can definitely understand that. She's like, it's a great topic. And I'm like, yeah, I did my research. She's like, ooh, what research did you do? And that's what we're going to work through. But it's a fascinating topic that I'm glad you asked me to, and I'm glad that I decided to do it because we're going to go through how I prepared for this. Right, we're going to go through some of the techniques that I use semi-successfully, and we're going to field questions. So, can people just put questions in the?
They can. So I can throw them up on the screen as they come in. But anyone who has questions, please toss them out there. But yeah, right, I mean, yeah, it's just so easy to say yes, Dan. It's so easy. It's so much easier to say yes than no. You're hurting people's feelings. I mean,
not for everybody, right? You know who's mastered this skill is teenagers. Right? Teenagers are like, no way. They usually add an expletive at the end. They're like, absolutely not. And it's irritating, but highly effective. Right. And I think you're going for more professional responses than the teenage response.
Yes.
Right? Yes. But they've got it down. There's no social implications, no guilt, nothing. They're just like, no matter what you ask, you say no. And it's not really individual teenage. That's just the stage of life you're going through. Right? You're coming into your own, you're feeling like, I want to be my own person. Right? So at that stage of your life, you're really good. Then somewhere along the line, you lose it. Then somewhere along the line, right? You start accepting all these kind of requests and it starts becoming easier to say yes than say no. But I will say that in my experience, there's a dichotomy. And some people like yourself are yes people, right? That when you make the request, your default is yes, right? Then there's some people who are no people. Some people you're never going to ask, right? I don't know if they have their own category, right? The slugs, right? They're just like, yeah, you stay over in your lane and I'll stay over in mine. And then there's some people who no matter you ask, you say no. And if you say no enough, people just stop asking, right? But it's kind of counterintuitive because the more success you achieve, the more asks you get. Right. And so it's a really good skill to talk about and then a really good skill to get good at. Oh, Jamie says all very true. I know. And as we've done our research, because it's Alan Plunkett, he sent me 3 blog articles to read. Right. One of which I'm going to quote here because that had some great advice. Right. And this subject matter has been out there for a while, but it's still very, very hard. But what I'm going to say is saying no is a learned skill. And it's still evolving for me for a couple of reasons, right? I have natural curiosity. How about you? Do you have natural curiosity?
Very much so. Very much so.
You like to be involved in everything, right? And like you actually think things through. I'm a quick starter. That's what my wife calls me. And like I like to do everything. I like to go down every rabbit hole. I like to do new things. And that's part of what makes me a good entrepreneur. I don't want to really talk about it a lot. I just want to let's get it done, right? And then number two, I have a very large network. So I'm connected on LinkedIn to. Can you see how many people I'm connected to?
I can check.
Oh my goodness, real
I know
time.
you've got like 38,000 followers on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true. And like 2,000 people on Instagram if you want to see pictures of my food, right? And 6
Who
people.
doesn't?
Yeah, I got a few people.
23,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool because I realized very early that there's power in your network, and that's super fun. All right, I have a very busy schedule, like you were talking about all the stuff that I do, which is super fun for me, right? I don't like being bored, and I don't like being a slug. I like to do stuff. I like to do stuff that's meaningful. I travel a lot, so I'm not always available. And this is another thing. My schedule is public. If you go to dantyre.com, right, you can book time with me either at one of my office hours or you can just get on my calendar. Right. My meeting link is on my website, and it's a public speaker, speaks to hundreds of thousands of people per year. My philosophy is exactly like what you said. It's to always be helping. You'll see it's like on my mantra is I want to do the most good for the universe. I want to help as many people. Right. But what I learned is that if you try to help everybody, what happens, Alan? What happens if you try to help everybody?
You can't help anyone.
Yeah. It's chaos.
Yeah.
It is chaos, right? So it's why this is worthwhile, like mastering now. When you're overcommitted, right? When I try to fit in a little extra stuff, it's bad for everyone, right? Why is it bad for me?
Well, I think one of the things that you love to talk about is this book right here, Succeed by Heidi Grant.
Yeah.
But it intersects or like depletes your ability to achieve your own mission, your own goals, 100%. Your own agenda.
100%. So it hurts me, like personally, if I overcommit, right? It hurts the people that I've already committed to, right? So part of this is framing the no in a way in which it's setting the right expectations, right? Because no giver wants to hurt somebody. Right. But you have to be strong for yourself. Right. You've got to make sure that you are doing all the basics for yourself. And if you're harmed in any way or your previous commitments or your circle, right. Amy is always talking about like the impact that you have on your on the people you interact with because of stress or quality of work or any of that kind of stuff. Saying no is something that everybody needs to cultivate over a regular basis. And I think it's a little harder in 2021. What do you think about? Do you think it's a little harder in a global?
Oh, it's way harder. Yeah. I mean, one of the notes that I made saying yes, not only is the easy answer, but given everything that's happening globally right now, we're more in touch with feelings. We're more in touch with just wanting to help and wanting to be there for people and wanting to, surround people with love and caring, and saying no just doesn't feel good.
That's right. All right. So I'm going to talk about the Heidi Halvorson book. Put in the comments if you are familiar with Succeed, How to Accomplish Your Goals by Dr. Heidi Halvorson. It's awesome. I give away that book 200 times, but I got 2 bullets I want to talk about before that. The first, and this is easy to understand, how far we're 15 minutes in. All right. So if you've lasted this long, you clearly like big energy and that you're like vibing the shtick that Alan and I have. The first thing, better to participate as your full true self than to be a walking compromise. Oh my goodness, Anthony, right? Okay, that's should be in quotes. That's unbelievable. And that's exactly what we're talking about, right? You have to be a full mind and body if you're going to engage. Okay, so here's my first tip, Tyre's tip for saying no. Number 1, don't answer immediately, right? In 2012, if you ask me, especially you, I'd be like, yep. In 2012, I moved to waiting 7 seconds, right? And like all the delayed processors, all the programmers, all the people who have MBAs and PhDs are like 7 seconds. But that was like an eternity for me. And I would actually count on my finger. People say, Dan, I'm like, yes or no, right? And then in 2014, I moved it to 15 seconds, which, like everybody else shaking their head, okay, 15 seconds,
They
take
just
a
walk
breath.
away.
Exactly. Then in 2000, I think it was like 2017, I'm proud to say I moved it to a full 50 seconds, right? And then I got a little crafty. I'm like, ooh, let me noodle on that, right? And that means let me think about it a little bit, right? And as a pleaser and as a giver, right, that gave me an opportunity to, first of all, take a breath. Number two, to recognize what I was committing to rather than just an emotional knee-jerk reaction. So what do you think about that as a good tip for saying no? Just wait a little.
Pregnant pause. It's all about the pregnant pause, as they call it. I'm a big fan.
And do you have one? Do you count something on your fingers? Or
I do. I go to the point of being uncomfortable. That's my goal. Like I pause to the point where I feel as though everyone is uncomfortable with the length of pause that I've just placed there.
Yeah.
And actually somebody who I know is listening to this, he and I talk about that all the time. I'm like, don't jump, just pause,
right.
Take a breath, take a few breaths and wait.
If you're admitting that this is an important skill to learn, right? Usually it's hard to learn these skills. Anthony's dropping wisdom again. Give yourself the opportunity to speak in an engaged and meaningful way. Where I learned this, right, was when I worked at HubSpot. I was the first employee that didn't graduate from Sloan School, the MIT MBA company. So there were 9 Sloan MBAs and me, right? And they would ask a question. No one would say everything. Right. I'd answer the question before they finished asking the question. Right. They hadn't even put the question mark on it. And I'd be like, okay, this is what we ought to do. And everybody would just look at me and say nothing. Right. I felt like an idiot. Right. But what I learned is that at MIT, they teach you how to think first and talk second. Right. And when you're saying no, thinking through the implications, right, until it's uncomfortable. I like that. All right. That's a good wrinkle. Number 2, you have to know what you want and prioritize, right? The second part of saying no is one of the keys to being productive is being intentional in what you want to do. And in our briefing meeting, you talked about the importance of setting goals. And you're a big goal setter, right?
I am. Yes, sir.
And you've read the book, right?
Oh, Succeed?
Yeah.
A few times. Yeah. All of Heidi Halverson's books I've read.
Okay. Look at Robin Montoya saying, I was always taught to pause until I'm uncomfortable. That's great. Who taught you that, Robin? That's amazing. Right. I wish somebody told me that when I was like 57. That would have saved me a whole lot of grief. So this book, which I give away a lot, Succeed, How to Accomplish Your Goals, it's required reading for this mentor program that I run. Because setting goals helps in so many fashions. She did 2 years of research for this book, and it's amazing. Because there's why goals and what goals. And which are easier for you, Alan? Why goals or what goals?
I would say why goals are easier for me.
Nice.
Yes.
And it's a little bit different for everybody, right? A lot of women are good with their why goals. A lot of guys are good with their what goals, right? But you have to have both your why and your what goals. And it helps you focus. And she has all the statistics that are just flat out amazing. If you set your goals, you actually write them down. In my public speaking, I say, all right, raise your hand if you have goals. Everybody raise their hand. I go, raise them, keep it raised if you've written them down, right? Half the hands go down. And I'm like, that's not a goal. That's a dream. If you can't write it down, right, that doesn't count. And they're like, oh, yeah, I guess that's right. But they have never read the book. So now when you're archiving it, that helps you focus. And Amy and I were listening to the Succeed book on audio when we were driving across country, and it was amazing, right? I pick up things the 3rd, 4th, 5th time I've read it. Yep. It's kind of amazing. And one of the key points that I teach entrepreneurs all the time is when you're solving a problem, right, you start with the goals and work backwards. Why is my dominant style? Okay, you got to interview this lady, Robin. She's on fire. See, it is females are typically good on the why, which is awesome, right? And they understand why. Sometimes they a little bit of issue of what, not always, right? But understanding those goals, super important. In 2021, the way we solve problems, right? This is not really a HubSpot thing, but it applies, is you start with the goals and work backwards. And you've heard me say that multiple times.
Always. Yep.
But does that make sense to you?
It totally does. Yeah. You focus on outcomes.
Exactly. And what did we do before we had that process? What did you focus on? How did you accomplish anything? Because you didn't even know when you were finished, right? So somewhere along the line, when I learned that, I'm like, okay, that's brilliant, right? Let's figure out our end state. Then let's kind of work it back. And if you understand your goals, right now you have a document. I have mine on my Evernote, right? Not only do I do my annual goals, but I update them in July. And I have 15 minutes. This is a good tip. Not necessarily about saying no, but 15 minutes in my calendar on the 30th or 31st of every month where I go in and I review my goals. And at the bottom of my goal sheet, it says the 3 things that I did that I want to celebrate, 3 things I did right, the 3 things I want to improve, right? So I needed to get a new PC, right? That's one of the things I needed to improve. I had swimmer's ear. That wasn't really great, but I did a lot of good things in June. So I have 3 pluses, 3 months. All right. So after you define your goals, and after you understand your priorities, you can start to determine which ones are more important. And some people are core. If Angelica calls you and says, all right, pick up dinner on the way home, is that a priority or not?
Done. Yes, it's a priority.
Of course, right? So there's certain people, your family, your significant other, your boss, right? Where you've got to make sure that you understand that's core. There's a little less flexibility there. But there's also, right, some other people that are in the middle. There are some people you'll never do anything for, right? You and I both know, folks, if somebody asks us, I'm like, no, right? It's quick. It's easy. Feels great, right? That's where I learned to say no actually is very, very effective, right? So the next thing, now you've got your goals. Now you're able to categorize ask a little bit more about, is this a core person you need to respond to? Is this somebody who's in the like middle zone, or is this somebody who says no? And most people can make that determination. Now, tip number 4 is pretty important, and that's defining the approximate time to get it done. Right. And this is what you should use your 30 seconds or uncomfortable pause to get to. And how do you ever think about the approximate time and effort it's involved in, like one of the asks that people ask?
I do. Yeah. I always like try to figure out drive time to go meet them wherever they want to meet. I try to figure out, how much time we're going to be sitting there talking. All of that is calculated for sure.
Okay. So this is one of the most important things about saying no, because when you ask a giver to do something, they immediately think, yes, I want to do it. Yes, I can do it. Yes, I can fit it in. And yes, it's going to take me 10 minutes. When I first started, when you asked me this, I'm like, yeah, I can talk about saying no. It's just big Dan Tyre fat ego, right? Right. I can talk for 45 minutes on vanilla. I can do this. But right, in reality, right, if you wait for 30 days, she's taught that in healthcare. Very good. Very good. When you wait for 30 seconds or a minute or 50 seconds, you're now going to think through the phases of what Alan is actually going to ask, right? What the request is. You're going to think through the discovery phase, how much time it's going to take you to come up to speed, how much time it's going to take you to prepare, how much time it's going to actually get it done, the commuting time. And guess what? Is it shorter or longer than you think?
It's always longer than
how much?
I know. By yeah, it's exponential. It's always unfortunate how much more time it is.
10x.
Yeah.
10x the time you think it is, because in your interest to move forward so quickly, you forget about all of the steps that need to take. So it's important, because any sizable task takes 10 times longer than you think. Anthony says Robin definitely needs to be interviewed by Alan. So let's put that in there as well. Okay. Make sure. So here's kind of the guidelines around number 4. Make sure you understand what the ask is. Sometimes, right, it's a little bit bigger than you think, right? Sometimes you're not using the right vocabulary. You're not on the same wavelength. Sometimes just appearing on a podcast or a LinkedIn Live just means showing up for 45 minutes. Sometimes, like in our case, you maybe do you didn't make me, but we did 3 hours worth of prep, right? Make sure the time for your preparation and delivery and travel is in your calendar. How do you feel about putting stuff in your calendar, Alan?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I'm religious about it for sure.
Yeah. If it doesn't make it in my calendar, forget about it.
It's not going to happen.
Nothing. It's never is. So, right? A good phrase before you answer yes or no, and when you're thinking for 50 seconds is, oh, maybe I should look at my calendar and see what other things that I've committed to. If you decide enthusiasm is a terrible bias, all right, this guy, Anthony, right? Unbelievable. Yeah, I agree. Right. And what we're trying to do is teach ourselves to be a little bit more thoughtful in understanding the full extent so we don't stress ourselves out. When you put it in your calendar, the other thing that I've learned to do is put in buffer. You have any buffer time in your calendar?
I always have buffer time. Yeah. Okay. I never have enough buffer time. That's the other problem I have.
Okay.
There's never enough buffer time.
Yeah, I've learned that anything that's travel, if I'm speaking, I usually want to get to the venue at least an hour early, right? I want to get in the right mindset. That buffer time in the calendar is important. All right. And then rule number 5, right? If you're going to say no, a quick no is always preferable, right? And, right, say no, Alan.
No.
Okay. Good. So I know you've done it at least once in your life, right? So you got to practice it. No. You don't necessarily need to be mean or loud, right? And I'm going to give you some ways that you can say no in a more professional fashion. But
how do you feel about the sorry no? Like the apologetic no? Do you feel like there's a case for that, or do you feel like
I think you always need to be professional. I don't think you should ever be aggressive, and no one benefits. It's not in anyone's best interest to be mean or short. Yeah. So I'm always encouraging, right? I'd be like, wait. And then I'm going to give you, then the direct no would be, thank you very much for the consideration, but I'm unable to assist at this time. I can't do it, right? Unable to assist at this time is a good thing to email. By the way, if you're making an ask, it's always better to make it face-to-face. If you can't make it face-to-face, it's always better to use the phone, right? You guys remember the phone, right? Before you had a smartphone, you had a landline, right? When you call somebody up and ask them for a favor, right? It's actually easier to say a no. And if that's somebody you trust, like calling them up and saying, I wanted to get back to you quickly, but I wanted to let you know, no, right? I'm unable to do that. And the quicker you do it, the better it is for everybody involved. Why is the quicker your response, the better it is for everybody?
Well, because the other person doesn't need to dwell.
Exactly.
It's like, being declined for a job opportunity.
Yeah.
I'd rather tell that person the minute they leave that they're not going to be hired than delay it a week and have them think that they might get hired.
Yeah. When I'm interviewing somebody and it's not a good fit, at the end of the interview, I'm going, you know what? You've got great attributes. You've got great skills, but it's just not a good fit at this time. Is there a way I can keep your resume on file? And as we grow into need for these skills, can I contact you? Right. Yeah. And then there's no follow-up. Right. I'm going to give you some other tips. You brought up a really good point last night in the briefing meeting about a sense of guilt. Right. And lots of people feel guilty when they say no. Why do you feel guilty when you say no?
Well, you feel as though you're letting someone down. You feel as though that, they're counting on you to deliver whatever that is, or to meet with them regarding whatever that ask might be.
Yeah.
So there's a guilt.
Yeah. And growing up Irish Catholic, I can tell you, I majored in guilt, right? Oh my goodness. My family situation is you got to feel guilty about everything. Oh my goodness. But right. I don't really have FOMO, right? I have phobia, fear of being included, right? I want, once a decision is made, it's done, right? We've moved on. Right. Yes. I was just giving a presentation to a Phoenix-based organization, and I'm like, all right, you got to be a goldfish. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, once something happens, if it's not, you got to move on. There's nothing you can do to influence it. There's no reason why you should rehash it, go through it all that time. You just got to make a decision. You got to understand what's going on. So the guilt is kind of real, but it usually comes from uncertainty. And one thing that changed this for me, right, in my early 30s is that no doesn't necessarily mean unhelpful. It just means you're defining your time commitment and contribution and asking for equal commitment for the requesters.
Yeah.
Right? So you asked for some tips to saying no, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Now, what are we in? Minute 30. So we're finally getting to the meat of this stuff. All of that stuff is good. But the first one is try to be assertive and courteous, right? The way I soften it up, I'm like, wow, Alan, thank you for asking. And then I take my 55 seconds, right? Let me take a little bit of time to noodle on this. And they're like, oh, how much time do you need? You're like, hold on. Let me put you on hold. Let me just count on my fingers or whatever. And that's flat out weird, right? Especially if you're in the same room because you're just looking at the person and not saying anything.
Counting on your fingers.
I know. And then I'm going to segment the asks. I'm like, okay, is this my family? Is this my beautiful wife? Is this business related? Is this outside interest? And then just like we said, there's the no bucket. You can still wait the 55 seconds and it's it plays to their ego. You're still considering the decision, right? But you're going to say, okay, I'm going to have to put it in the no bucket. It sounds great. It's important. I'm going to pass. No, I'm going to put it in the no bucket. I'm going to pass on this opportunity, right? You don't have to give them a reason, right? The shorter, the better. Sometimes what happens is people go on and on about all this kind of stuff and try to over explain. Just say, thanks for asking, but no. Then there's the maybe bucket. But setting the time review and the parameters, sometimes it's a tiny bucket, right? Hamster-sized bucket, right? But like there's that maybe bucket. And then there's the yes bucket, which comes kind of naturally, right? The gray area, is where people get overextended, right? If you're not quite sure, right? And so if you can flip to a default no, even a giver, to flip to a default no, and they gotta like explain to you why. There's a few things that I won't do anymore. Rarely will I do a speech that isn't near a major airport. Rarely will I do a full day meeting, right? Rarely will I do 2-hour video updates. It's just too exhausting, right? And so if they're a maybe or a yes, right, then this is part of the magic. I have specific requirements, right? I tell people, and you've heard me say this, right? When I said, yes, I'll do this, I'm like, I'm going to help you, but you got to do all the work. Write that one down. Put that in the meeting notes. I'll help you, but you got to do all the work, right? If I'm still unsure, sometimes I'll say, how can I help you in 15 minutes? Right? When I was talking to my friend, Ashley Cox, she said, what I say is, okay, I only have 30 minutes to help. Can we get it done in 30 minutes? What she's doing is, my wife gave me a hard time. She's like, that's not saying no. I'm like, it kind of is. She's like, no, that's saying yes. You're leading it. I go, yeah, but that you're squeezing it into 30 minutes. She's like, oh, I'm a little bit dubious. But if somebody gets on my calendar, and my calendar is in the public domain, that gives me, they can set an appointment for 15 minutes, right? If it's a recurring meeting, right, I want them to fill out all the stuff. I will say, all right, before I get on a call with you, I need you to write out the extent of what you're asking, right? And for any request that I agree to, you have to email me what you want in explicit detail. Guess what happens when you ask people to do that?
They don't do it.
80% of the people, they're very well-meaning. They intend to do it, but life intervenes, right? And it never shows up. So it's a very effective way. Okay, right? You're in the maybe bucket. They're like, what the heck does that mean, Tyre? I'm like, I haven't determined. Brian says for me, 30 minutes turns into 2 hours. You got to be strong, Brian. There's no way. You can't just like let that happen. That's your bad. You're like, okay, I only have, one of the ways that works is you only have 25 minutes, right? Or 15 minutes. My calendar, you can set for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Setting it for 25 or 50 minutes. When I do my office hours, I do that. That gives me time to do other stuff, right? But don't get on my calendar until you've emailed me what you want. The more specific, the better. Like text or WhatsApp is okay. But I prefer email because if I need to forward it to somebody, it's just all in one. The less work you make me do, the better. All right. Always be explicit in your ask. Don't assume I know anything, right? Assume that I live in a bubble that I got a million things going on, that I get 800 emails a day, and I have no idea who you are, right? And if people ask for help but don't define it, it's unlikely I'm going to do it, right? And you can't ask a busy person to do all the work, right? You gotta assist with that. So budding entrepreneurs, this happens a lot with budding entrepreneurs. Brian Halligan has a great blog article about, as companies scale, the only way you can grow is do less things. But he says, by definition, that means you have to say no, right? And that's so hard for entrepreneurs because they made a living saying yes, getting stuff done, moving quickly, right? But the book I wrote called Inbound Organization, right, defines this in a way in which you create an M spot. And have you ever heard, do you have it right there?
I do. I have it right here.
Okay. Where's my,
right there.
Boom. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. It talks about the M spot, which is a HubSpot format invented by Allison Savory, I think, a VP at HubSpot for a RevOps division. And M stands for your mission, which doesn't change once every 10 years. The S is who you serve, right? The category you serve. HubSpot's example is we work with millions of small businesses to help them grow better. Your P in M spot is the plays. You have 3 to 5 of those plays. The T's are the targets, right? These are how you're going to gauge and measure the success. And the O's, the most pertinent part for this presentation, are the omissions, right? And if it's not on the M spot, right, we use this all the time to say, no, that's not on the M spot. I don't think that's something that we should do. It helps with alignment to make sure that as people scale, right, they're doing the stuff that makes sense, right? So you can go Inbound Organization. You can see all the information about the M spot. Doing less is required to scale. You can get that Brian Halligan blog article. That is super important. All right. So now you asked me how to say no professionally. And we talked about immediately face-to-face. The direct no. Thank you very much for considering me, but I can't commit at this time, right? Another way to do it that's a little softer is, you know what? That's a great idea. I'd love to participate, but I'm booked solid on this project. Who else can help you? You see what I just did there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Did you like that one?
I love that one, and I used it this morning on LinkedIn. I had
somebody ask
me. Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what it was. So this morning, I get a LinkedIn request to be a executive chair for a local entrepreneurs deal, and I said, this is exactly what I said. I said, thank you. Between mentoring, nonprofit work, and running my business, I have no room on my plate for anything else. If I think of anyone you may want to know, I will direct them your way.
Awesome. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Right?
Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, that's the nicest no anybody's ever heard, right? Sometimes I'll say, people in the maybe bucket, I'll say, okay, first time I can review this is November 2021, right? I make sure I'm like, nope, the first time I can even take a look at it is November 2020. That sets the right expectations. That puts it back on them, right? I have not made the commitment. I've just made the commitment to review it if, in fact, they send it back to me in November of 2021. Sometimes I'll say, I'm booked until November. If you ping me then, we can check on my bandwidth, right? And it's a very professional way of like, there's no way that I'm going to fit it in with all the other responsibilities. But I always, like, one of my guidelines is I always want to be encouraging, because we teach everybody, right? It's okay to make the ask. Right. The important component, though, is you got to make it easy for the person to help solve it. Right. By time stamping it, by asking for whatever you want, to research it. I can't tell you the number of people who say, can you help me with a customer success manager? I'm like, okay, what research did you do? And they're like, oh, research? I'm like, didn't you just Google it? What you need? And they're like, oh, that's a good idea, right? It doesn't help anybody to be mean or short or less than accommodating. It's not in anybody's best interest. Right. And then once you get good, right, then the guilt just melts away. Once you understand that this is, it's all in your head, right? It's all optional, that saying no is an important component of virtually everybody's scale. right, of honoring your commitments, being a good dad or father or husband or business owner or entrepreneur or board member, right? It just becomes a lot easier to manage through all of your commitments for success. All right.
100%. 100%.
Is that what you wanted?
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to go back to, sorry about the dogs. The budding entrepreneurs in the background, or the budding entrepreneurs that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Would you say, or would Brian say in his blog, that that is a consistent thing throughout being an entrepreneur? Or do you start off saying yes to an exorbitant amount of things and then slowly over time start to decline and start saying no?
That's what Ariel Kimborowski, it was the blog article you sent me in the briefing mode. Why most successful entrepreneurs say no. I give her a huge shout out because she says she had the data. We're data driven. She goes, a survey about the most valued entrepreneur characteristics, according to Inc., revealed that 57% of successful entrepreneurs are risk takers, making them more likely to say yes to opportunities. Right. But as you know, my management philosophy is that the skills that get an entrepreneur to run a successful company, to get to the first $1 million, right, work against you to get you to $2 million. And then those skills work against you to get to 5. And then they work against you to get to 10. Right. So you got to do it completely different. And one of the skills you got to learn, right, is saying no. Right. Focusing on the priorities. The only way you lose once you've proven your business model, if you're focusing on the wrong things. Right. In most cases, the things that you focus on are your employees and your customers. Right. But that focus is important. And there's always a million asks. So by compartmentalizing those asks, right, by making people do a little bit more work, by bucketing those asks, all right, you have a opportunity to remain sane, stay focused on your most important priorities, and get stuff done.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. No, I've not heard that specific piece, the 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. I've not heard that specific piece. I mean,
okay,
I know
this is why. In my entrepreneur work and working with Yes Phoenix and Startup Arizona and Arizona Commerce Authority and my angel investing, right? The first segment of entrepreneurs, when they're going from $0 to $1 million, they're doing everything themselves. Right? You know what this is like, right? Remember back when you started Phoenix Staff, right? You were leaning in, working 80-hour weeks all the time because you had to do all the jobs. So there's no one else to delegate it to.
Right.
Once you hit the point where you're about $1 million, now you're starting to hire your first manager. Now you can't just do it on raw working 90 hours a week because people will burn out. Now you have to approach a different process where you have more work-life balance, where you're delegating more, where you're managing people. And so if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll flatline. Right. You'll stay at $1 million because people won't work for you. You're unable to deliver the message. You're not focusing on the right priorities. Right. That works to about $4 to $4.5 million. Then you got to change completely again because you put in the director level. Right. And then as you move to $10 million, you're moving in another layer, an executive layer, senior executive team. And it's all different again there. So as companies scale, you have to do less things. Really, really good. So that focus and the accompanying skill of saying no becomes critically important.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, I think, I know most of the people that have chimed in, at least, I know struggle with this as well. And for me personally, I will always have an excuse. And I think that's the hard part. I'll always have an excuse for saying yes. But if I didn't say yes to this, then these other chain of events wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So I couldn't say no.
Well,
and then the next thing will come around.
Of course you could. You have you can determine your own future. You can do anything. You're Alan Plunkett. You can do anything. But your ego is positively impacted when you say yes. Why? Why is your ego impacted when you say yes?
Yeah, it just feels better.
Yeah,
it feels better to help. You want to help everybody.
They asked you, right? You're like, yeah, they asked me to do this kind of thing, right? I must be the expert. Right. So that's your ego self. And you feel good, like you're contributing. Right. You feel like there's a little bit of ego hit. But right? If you're impacting your relationships, impacting your health, impacting all the other people that you've committed to, right? You're negatively affecting the entire circle, right? And that makes it very challenging to follow through on the commitments that you want. So, right, doing it professionally, right? Okay, how much time do you need? What exactly do you want? Send me an email, right? Then get on my calendar. After you send me the email, I'll review it and then get on my calendar for 15 minutes. What exactly do you want me to do? Who else can help you with this? Am I the right guy? Why are you asking me for this? Right. And then finally saying, I don't think this is in my wheelhouse, or the first time I could approach this would be November of 2021. Right. Thank you very much for considering me. You always want to be polite and professional. And who knows, maybe you have a little bit more bandwidth freeing up in 2022 and can assist in another way.
I love that point about why me. Like, why did you pick me, or why select me? Because to your point, that goes back to the ego. Like, what research have they done? Why did they select you? Maybe they have a really great reason. They saw you speak, or they saw you do something or write something or whatever. And they're going to have a comeback that's going to be like, all right. But if they
delayed
don't,
processing is brilliant, because
love that.
We're fighting against human nature, right? We're fighting against our natural inclination to try to want to help and be like high ego. Yeah, that's something that I really want to do. And in those cases, right, pausing, taking a breath, considering the implications to other thing, you can't do that in 7 seconds, right? No one can, right? It really actually takes me more than 55 seconds. But when people see you thinking about it, it's a little bit different, right? And gives you the bandwidth and the process where you're being intentional about what you're agreeing to, as opposed just being emotional or off the cuff.
Yep. I love that.
Nice.
That's perfect. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about that. Why would you ask me? I mean, I think that's just, that really is gold.
Yeah. And then good luck with it. Right. There's lots of people who can help you with this. I once had a management consultant who said, you say yes to everything. Right. Oh, here's another one. My boss at HubSpot, Courtney Sembler, who's an unbelievable, empathetic, great person. She made me start a no list. I'm like, what's a no? She goes, Dan, you do everything. We're going to start a no list. I'm like, what's that? She goes, we're going to start a Google Doc of the things that you don't do. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool, right? And there's only 3 things on the no list right now, but it's going to grow, right? And it's an actual thing. I'm like, is this on the yes list or this on a no list, right? And I thought that was a pretty good evolution of learning how to segment the asks and understand what's going on.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like James Clear's Atomic Habits. I think what I need to do anyway, and part of why I wanted to have this conversation for all the people that I know and myself, is it starts with like just little tiny habits. I mean, Atomic Habits is all about just little teeny tiny things that you do daily that just over time will compound and build into, habit change.
Yeah. 100%. And this is what we're talking about. It's a valuable skill. We should turn this into bullet points. Great info, says Brian. I never tried saying yes to feed my ego. Very interesting perspective. Yeah, I feed my ego all the time. Believe me, it's the most well-fed ego anywhere on the planet, and to my detriment. So one of the good things about being a senior person is understanding and reviewing that kind of stuff. All right. This has been awesome. I love this.
It's been a lot of fun.
I know. And next time I'm going to say no.
No, you're not.
I may. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to count it out. 55 seconds. I'll be like this, right? You'll be like, oh, I know what he's doing, right? And you can be at service and still set the right expectations, right? So I want to make sure that everybody understands saying no is not being mean, right? And incorporating the right way to say no will make you a better person, better executive, better partner, better giver in the universe.
Yep. I appreciate you, Dan, and I really am grateful that you did not this time say no.
No worries. That was super fun. This is my first LinkedIn Live. Hopefully we resonated with the audience. It's going to be a good piece of recorded content, and look forward to helping entrepreneurs globally, right, scale their business any way I can.
DanTyre.com. That's the way they reach you. That's where they find your calendar. Everything is there.
It's all there. right? And I'm happy to say no to all of you who are watching this program.
Thank you again, Dan. Appreciate it.